Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and jabronis. It's Mitch here with your NFL Week 7 review. This is the bottom line. This is the best rant show you'll find covering the NFL across YouTube, the internet. It really doesn't matter. As you know, I'm Mitch. If you're ready, Gronk, Spike, the like, don't be a jabroni and subscribe. And let me know in the comments your biggest takeaway from Week 7. Let's go. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about Monday Night Football first. We had a big NFC showdown. Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions at home after an embarrassing performance where all week Dan Campbell couldn't stop talking about the refs against the Chiefs. Embarrassed. Blown out. America's team, they say. The people's champion, the Detroit Lions, failed. And they return home and they play the people's quarterback, Baker Mayfield. And what happens? Dan Campbell, not once, but twice, challenges the wrong thing. No wonder the refs won't give you a call. You don't know how to challenge a play. But congratulations, Dan Campbell. You got back on track. And it's an impressive performance what your team put on the field on Monday night. I think a contender caliber performance by the Detroit Lions. I just wonder where it was against the Chiefs. Now, maybe it took you a week to adjust without all your personnel in the secondary. This new defensive coordinator they have, light years better than Aaron Glenn, by the way. Just going to throw that out there. So somebody should go hire him as a head coach. Going to throw that out there. We'll get to Mr. Aaron Glenn. Oh, don't you worry. We're not going a single bottom line review without Aaron Glenn's name mentioned. Don't you worry. The biggest jabroni walking in the NFL right now. But we have 24-9, the Detroit Lions at home over Baker Mayfield. I have to say one thing about the Bucs. Mike Evans, thank you for your service. Thank you for your years of consistency. The explosive plays, the touchdowns, the first downs, the Super Bowl ring, the final of Tom Brady's career. Thank you, Mike Evans. We will miss you this season. Unless he comes back in the playoffs. We'll see. We're going to talk about the Bucs because I think they need a little bit of a talking to. But also, I feel like Detroit deserves the spotlight. So let's start it off with this. Detroit really surprised me with how well they played defensively in this game. Extremely surprising. Now, did they get back McNeil, who's a big-time D tackle? Yes. Do they still have Aiden Hutchinson? Their front seven intact, one of the best linebacking cores in the NFL. Jack Campbell had a great game once again, leading the way. Yeah, the front seven is pretty solid, and they definitely dominated the day at home against a beat-up Bucs offensive line. But in my pre-recognition, in my breakdown of this game, I said I didn't think that would be much of a problem. Detroit doesn't have an upper echelon pass rush. Now, maybe McNeil made that big of a difference. I don't think so. But I really do believe that this came down to that secondary. I couldn't believe what I was watching. These guys were balling their absolute ass off. Their asses off. Rock Ya-Sin was looking like prime Rock Ya-Sin. from the Colts like 7 years ago. Arthur Millette. Wow. Amik Robertson. Wow. I guess he's always, every once in a while he puts forth this performance. Those guys were balling, bro. Thomas Harper. Wow. I mean, if I missed anybody, wow. Detroit's secondary playing a ton of man coverage as usual, pressing their asses off at the line of scrimmage, and they were partnering that up with good pressure up front. They were tackling extremely well in space. And yeah, Baker didn't have his best game. That was evident. Baker did not play his best game. He missed a number of throws. Wildly inaccurate. But he was also under constant duress, and almost all of his throws were into tight windows. It didn't feel like there were many receivers open all day long. Detroit tightened those windows up. This is with the backup cornerback group. Like, how impressive is that? So I know that Tampa Bay had some injuries at receiver. Evans got hurt during the game. Emeka Egbuka injured before the game and entered the game beat up. Chris Godwin out. McMillan still out. But I would have never expected the Lions to hold Baker the way he's been playing to 9 points. In my life. The way that Detroit's defense looked against Kansas City. Now, maybe they got too soft against the Chiefs in coverage. And they said, what we got to go back to what we do. Maybe that was part of it. But, wow. Like, that was the biggest headline to me. That was so shocking. Because I didn't think the Lions' offense played particularly well in this game. They had a couple moments. The first drive was awesome. They went down the field and scored. Jahmyr Gibbs ripping off a 78-yard touchdown, looking electric. Fastest running back in football, one of the biggest explosive weapons in the league. Yeah, we know that Sonic can do that, right? He's collecting those coins. Amon-Ra made some plays on third down. But Jared Goff didn't play great. Like, I think statistically his numbers aren't bad. 20 for 29, still a fairly high completion rate, 241 yards, a 91 passer rating. He did take 4 sacks and he did throw a pick. So those are things you don't see from Jared Goff very often. 4 sacks taken and an interception. He was pressured pretty frequently in this game. Jamel Dean picked him off on a very similar concept to what we saw from Jamel Dean against Mac Jones. Cover 2, cloud flat, backs up, picks him off. And Winfield had it covered over the top too. It was just not a good throw, not a good decision. Like, either way, it probably wasn't going to be complete. So really good deception by Tampa. And coming into the game, I liked Tampa with the points. This is one of the few games I got wrong. And honestly, I don't feel bad betting it, because if you would have told me the Lions were held to 24 points, I would have said, hey, Tampa probably won the game. Like, that was kind of my thought. I thought this would be like a 30, 24, 27, 23 type game. Not a 24-9. And Tampa had numerous chances to come back and climb their way back into this game because there were turnovers. Jared Goff got a fumble, stripped by Yaya Diaby. That was, his interception wasn't the only turnover he had. There was 4th down failures by Detroit. Right? Tampa was able to stuff him on 4th down. There were some dicey decisions made by Dan Campbell in this game in that regard. Detroit was 1 for 2 in the red zone. They were 1 for 2 on 4th down. But Tampa, meanwhile, they were 4 for 16 on 3rd down. That is very, 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 very low percentage for them. 2 for 5 in the red zone, which Tampa is not used to performing at. 3.9 yards per pass is just gross for Tampa Bay. And they also took 4 sacks. Like, they were 0 for 1 in the red zone, 2 turnovers, interception, and a fumble. So both teams had 2 proper turnovers. But Detroit, even on their end, 3 for 13 on 3rd down. Only 17 first downs for the Lions in this game. To hold Detroit to 17 first downs is pretty damn impressive if you're the Bucs defense. Bucs defense is legitimately good. They're strong against the run. Outside of 1 run by Jahmyr Gibbs, I thought they did a pretty damn good job. 78-yard touchdown by Gibbs, which makes his day look a lot better than it really was, right? And then David Montgomery, 13 carries for 21 yards. But on the other side, Tampa couldn't run the ball that well, 10 for 38. Baker was just inefficient, couldn't find receivers open. They were pressured. And I was just shocked by how dominant Detroit's secondary was in this game, considering all the injuries. Guys, they didn't have Kirby Joseph. They didn't have Brian Branch, which is the biggest one of them all, maybe. They didn't have DJ Reed. They didn't have Terrion Arnold. Now, maybe, these Lions fans that are telling me Terrion Arnold's actually good at football, maybe they should reassess that, because I haven't really believed that to be the case at any point. So, I don't know. Maybe he shouldn't be playing. I'm just going to throw that out there. Maybe Terrion Arnold should be replaced, because it looked like one or two of these guys played better than him in this game. But I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. But, yeah, Detroit's defense won this game. No doubt about it. They were playing the MVP frontrunner, the guy that was just torching every defense, including a very good Seattle defense in Seattle, and they held them to 9 points. Like, Detroit did not play well on offense. Got one big play from Jahmyr Gibbs. Goff had an off day, missed guys down the field, threw the ball short, was a little rattled in the pocket. Like, I'd love to see this as a playoff game again. Mike Evans or no Mike Evans, I feel like this would be a great game. And I really enjoyed watching this game, because actually, like, this kind of felt like just a battle. You know what I'm saying? Like a battle between two teams, and even beat up, they were just putting their heart and soul into this game. So I liked watching the defenses in this game. I really enjoyed that. So 24-9, this was a big win for the Lions, and they deserve to win this game, no doubt about it. I was just genuinely surprised by how it happened. The Lions are now 3-0 at home. They've got to find a way to get that home field once again in the playoffs, and hopefully not have so many defensive injuries in the playoffs this year. But to me, they still look like the most complete team in the NFC, because they have an elite offense that's capable of putting up 30 to 40 points in a game. The Bucs are one of those defenses that do give them problems. It's a matchup that gives them an issue. But if your defense is able to come through with games like this as well, that's championship football, where your offense doesn't always have to carry the load. You know what I'm saying? That's a championship team. Okay? Now, I want to get into the discussion of who's the best running back in the NFL. Because I had this discussion with Durkant in the Discord. We have our own chat, BLV versus Consensus chat, Ultra, Durkant, and myself. And we often just, float memes in there, talk about a bunch of different stuff, football, music, whatever it may be. Durkant talks about Ariana Grande for half the day, whatever he's got to talk about, bro. But there was a discussion going on about Jahmyr Gibbs, and Durkant loves Jahmyr Gibbs. Okay? I love Jahmyr Gibbs. I have him in one of my fantasy leagues right now, one of my big money fantasy leagues. I loved him coming out of Alabama. I remember watching him, Alabama, Texas, hit home run touchdowns in that game. I love his skill set. I'm a big Jahmyr Gibbs type of running back style of play. Like, that's my type of running back. You know what I'm saying? This season, he's 5th in rushing yards. 5.1 yards per carry is also impressive. And he has 6 touchdowns on the season. Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, is not the best running back in football. And to me, the main argument came down to, we were actually arguing Christian McCaffrey and Jahmyr Gibbs. And I think it's such an interesting argument, because Jahmyr Gibbs might be the most explosive running back in football. I think the only one this season that rivals him is Jonathan Taylor. Saquon is not at that level this year. James Cook is close. Devon Achane is close, I guess. But it's really Gibbs or Taylor, for my money, for who's the home run running back, home run hitter. But I think the best running back in football is Bijan Robinson. And I think it's pretty obvious. Just because, when you look at Bijan, I don't think he really has any holes in his game. He's not quite as explosive as Jahmyr Gibbs or Jonathan Taylor, But a majority of what a running back does on a run play is decided between the first 2 yards of their run. You know what I'm saying? Like, just the way that Bijan Robinson, like, literally looks like a speed skater on a field. I just think it's unmatched how he cuts and moves and finds the spaces and holes within a run. I think he is the best at maximizing runs. He still has explosion, and he's a phenomenal receiver. He has effortless hands. He's a great in the screen game. He's a really good route runner. They line him up in the slot, out wide. They do a bunch of things with him. He's not quite McCaffrey in that area, but he is really, really good. He's probably second best as a receiver in the NFL, just in terms of the hands, the route running, the explosiveness, the elusiveness, all that sort of stuff. And good pass blocker, like, really doesn't have any holes. Has power to his game, has speed to his game. Gibbs and Taylor are more home run. Taylor's leading the way this season by a considerable margin in rushing yards. 697 yards, 5.3 yards per carry. He also does have 131 attempts, which I'm pretty sure is the most in the league. Outside of maybe McCaffrey. It's probably second. Yeah, McCaffrey has the most attempts. But here's what's special about McCaffrey and why I argued McCaffrey over Gibbs. McCaffrey can't run like Gibbs. He's not as explosive as Gibbs, and he's probably not as elusive as Gibbs. But if we were to look at all the areas that make a running back, McCaffrey's probably better than Gibbs at like 6 of the other 8, like 6 of 8 areas that make up a running back or whatever. Like if you're looking at attributes, right? Like vision, power, route running, pass blocking, hands, cuts, like short, grimy yards, like that sort of stuff, toughness, those little things. I think McCaffrey has the edge on Gibbs in a majority of areas. Gibbs is just so electric in terms of his explosiveness. But what McCaffrey's doing, man, is just insane. Like, this guy leads the NFL in attempts, leads the NFL in touches, is third in the NFL in receptions. Third in the NFL in receptions. He's a running back. He's on pace to have 1,000 rushing yards, 1,000 receiving yards. To me, Bijan's the best running back in the league, but you could make a strong argument that no one is more valuable to his team at this position than Christian McCaffrey. Because you look at Kyle Shanahan's record, and I'm the biggest Kyle Shanahan stan there is. You look at Kyle Shanahan's record with Christian McCaffrey, the guy's nearly unbeatable, and it doesn't even matter who his quarterback is. Mac Jones, Brock Purdy, it doesn't matter. But Christian McCaffrey, just the cheat code that he is from an alignment standpoint, from what you can do with him, this guy caught a seam ball on 3rd and 12 for a first down to win them the game against the Atlanta Falcons. He was lined up in the slot. Like, how many running backs in the league do that? Probably 0 outside of Christian McCaffrey. He's a man-to-man coverage beater out of the backfield. He gets the grimy, tough yards. He's a red zone weapon. Like, he is a cheat code in so many different ways. And against the Falcons, he proved to be like, he could be that power runner when he gets half decent blocking. And that's the other thing this year is like, McCaffrey's rushing yards don't look good from a efficiency standpoint because he has a much worse offensive line than a majority of the top running backs. Jonathan Taylor, has an elite offensive line. Bijan, mostly a very good offensive line. They have a couple injuries now. Jahmyr Gibbs, excellent offensive line. Josh Jacobs, excellent offensive line. James Cook, excellent offensive line. Saquon, excellent offensive line. For some reason this year, not really in the run game, but in the pass game at least. And really, like, the Niners this year, run blocking wise, are definitely like bottom 5 run blocking unit in the league. And McCaffrey's just like gritting his team. And he's like the heart and soul of his team. And I just feel like that is so rare for an NFL player nowadays at that position. Jahmyr Gibbs is not the heart and soul of the Lions, as explosive and as fun as he is. Bijan, he's close. He's close. Right? Like, How many running backs in the NFL right now are the heart and soul and the identity of their team, like Christian McCaffrey? So for me right now, I'd put Bijan first. I just think his skill is unmatched in all facets from a well-rounded standpoint in the NFL, and he would be successful in any offense in the league. I'd put McCaffrey second this year because I just think from a receiving standpoint, he's so much better than everyone else, and he's literally the MVP of his team. And then Jonathan Taylor and Jahmyr Gibbs are right there after that. I don't think that either of those guys have the receiving impact. I don't think that skill is the word, but impact compared to McCaffrey or Bijan. But they're better home run hitters. It depends on your preference. But those two guys would rival each other. I think this year Taylor's been better than Gibbs. And then after that, I think you're talking about James Cook. I think you're talking about Josh Jacobs. I think you're talking about the rest of the guys. Kenneth Walker, to me, would be in that conversation. Just doesn't really get the same work rate as the other guys. But yeah, I think like that's a fascinating conversation. I want to hear from you guys in the comments what you think about the best running back in football and where you stand on that conversation. The other Monday Night Football matchup, we had the Seattle Seahawks and the Houston Texans. Seattle won 27-19. Seattle advances to 5-2. The Texans are 2-4. Man, once again, arguably the most not even arguable. I don't think this is even arguable, guys. The most frustrating team to watch in the NFL is easily the Houston Texans. I don't know how many times I said on the broadcast last night, this team is unwatchable. I had to turn it off at the beginning of the fourth quarter, despite the Texans having numerous opportunities to come back in this game. They were unable to do it. This is the best defense in football, the Houston Texans. 27 points scored by Seattle does not do it justice at all. The Houston Texans defense forced 4 turnovers in this game, held Seattle to under 5 yards per play, held Seattle to 2 for 14 on third down, and essentially, the Seahawks, who gained 316 yards, had 32 minutes of possession. This team had the ball, probably started with the ball inside Houston territory on almost all of their scoring drives. On the first drive, they started at Houston's 44-yard line. On the second scoring drive, they started at their own 20. Okay, so that was one time that they started at their own 20. I'm looking through it. Field goal, they started at Houston's 38. So that's 10 points where they started inside the 45-yard line of the Texans. A field goal by Seattle. They started at Seattle's 38. So not quite in Houston's territory, but pretty good field position. That's a field goal drive. Their next touchdown drive, they started at Houston's 39. That's 17 points that Seattle was able to score starting inside Houston's 40-yard line. And Houston still was able to get numerous stops in this game. Numerous stops. Fumbles, interceptions. Guys, the Texans have the best defense in football. I love watching them play defense. It's such a difficult team to watch, in my opinion, because their offense is so terrible. Their offense is so miscalculated. Their offensive line is so bad. CJ Stroud makes so many mind-numbing mistakes. And there's so many penalties. Like 10 penalties for 105 yards by the Houston Texans in that game. 5 penalties. Or not 5 penalties, 10 penalties for 105 yards. Seattle had 4 turnovers, including 2 fumbles and 2 interceptions. And they also, went for it twice on 4th down because they were stopped 2 for 14 on 3rd down. And there are statistics flying everywhere about what happened in last night's game, which kind of tells you about what type of team the Texans are. There are stats from last night. Since 2000, teams to be penalized 10 plus times, have a -3 or worse turnover margin, convert under 25% of their 3rd downs, were 0-31, including the playoffs. They are now 1-31 thanks to the Texans and the Seahawks game. So the Seahawks had 10 plus penalties, a -3 turnover margin, and converted under 25% of their 3rd downs. No team had ever won a game previous to that point. I think at this point, I believe DeMeco Ryans is an excellent defensive coordinator. He's a top 5 defensive mind in football. And this defense is the best in the NFL, in my opinion. The way that they're able to rush the quarterback, their speed, their ferociousness, their coverage versatility, their cornerback position, even their run defense in this game was absolutely awesome. Seattle could not run the ball in this game. Houston is the best defense in the league. And DeMeco Ryans is a great defensive mind. Sam Darnold had been on a heater up to this game. He was 17 for 31 for 213 yards in this game. A 73 passer rating. And some of his completions were awesome throws, like indefensible throws. DeMeco Ryans has to be questioned, in my opinion, in terms of head coach legitimacy moving forward, because if this team fails to make the playoffs and they have a losing record, which it looks like they will because they can't score a point. Their defense also scored a touchdown, by the way, and blocked a field goal. I almost failed to mention that. So Houston's offense scored 12 points. And they blocked the field goal. Just throwing that out there. DeMeco Ryans does a great job with the defense. But this is 2 consecutive years where their offense looks mind-numbingly awful. Like, inept. I'm talking about, like, they can't block. They can't, like... There's so many fundamental issues with them. Like, false starts, illegal formations, illegal shifts, bad timing on routes. Like, you've had 2 different coordinators now. And part of this is on Stroud. Like, Stroud is not good. Period. It's not an off game. It's not, you can't just blame everyone else. Yeah, he was under pressure a lot. He was under a lot of duress. And it was not, it was not a good situation for him. But 25 incompletions in this game for CJ Stroud. 26, actually, doing my math correct. That's more incompletions than completions. He had 23 completions. They can't run the ball. For some reason, they want Nick Chubb to carry the ball in this game on this offense. Doesn't make any sense. Nico Collins got a concussion. But, like, the Texans are so frustrating. I really think DeMeco Ryans should be looked at in terms of the Texans need to think about maybe another coach. Just because, like, their offense is so inept. They have defensive talent. There are other defensive coordinators that I feel like could get this defense to an elite level, even if it's not quite as good. But this offense is literally unplayable. It's unwatchable. Okay? Now, I don't want to completely, like, just look over Seattle here. But again, I looked at the stats. I told you the stats. Seattle should have lost this game in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. This was not a great Seattle performance. 4 turnovers. A blocked field goal. 10 penalties. Now, I do believe that's because the Texans force those things. So if you're a Seahawks fan, You should be happy that, like, we don't have to play the Texans defense again this year. You should be happy about that. And Seattle's defense looked the part for 90% of this game. They were dominant. Leonard Williams, again, continues to be an absolute human wrecking ball. DeMarcus Lawrence had a strong game. Their entire front seven. Byron Murphy wasn't being moved. Ernest Jones had a phenomenal interception. Just Aboye Mafe, their whole front. Nwosu. Nick Emanwuri had a good game. Defense was awesome. I don't understand the whole Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet thing where, wasn't it Kenneth Walker's birthday? And they gave 2 touchdowns to Zach Charbonnet? Whatever. But JSN too, phenomenal. You don't see many people have 8 catches for 123 yards against this combination of corners. JSN just continues to be a one-man receiving crew. Because it really feels like no one else is any good out there other than the schemed up tight end shot to Arroyo or Barner. Other than that, it's like Cooper Kupp is not doing anything. Actually, he threw a pick. That's all he did was throw the ball to the other team on a design trick play. So, Houston, I gotta put the key in, lock it up, throw it away, man. Like, this team's done, finished, finito. Like, they have no offense. It's just done. It's finished. Like, as good as this defense is, as much as I'd love to see this defense in the playoffs, it's just, you can't have another team start 4 or 5 possessions inside your own 40-yard line against a top 10 team in the NFL on the road in Seattle. 17 points. Your defense forced 4 turnovers, blocked a field goal, and scored a touchdown, and you still lost. That's inept. Inept. Unbelievable. Next, after Monday Night Football, where do I want to go? I want to talk about this quarterback, coach, GM, owner drama that's going on in the NFL. So what we're going to do here is we're going to share our screen, and hopefully there's no lag when I do this, because sometimes recently we've been having some lag. But here we go. Here's the first one. This is Russell Wilson. He tweeted after Sean Payton said some choice words. The context basically being here from Ari, my sports update. Sean Payton said he recently told Giants owner John Mara that he was hoping they'd turn to Jackson Dart at QB once their game passes. High praise for Dart and a little shade towards Russell Wilson. So Sean Payton said, hey, I'd rather play Russell Wilson, essentially. Russell Wilson just tweeted today, classless, but not surprised. Didn't realize you were still bounty hunting 15 plus years later through the media. Hashtag let's ride. So Russ, Danger Russ, sitting on the bench in New York, had some choice words for Sean Payton. Some drama. First of all, I think Sean Payton's above this shit. This is why Sean Payton can be extremely unlikable. Because he just says stuff like this and he has an attitude, and even the penalty he took in that Giants game where he's running onto the field and getting in the face of the refs. I understand Sean Payton is an emotional guy and all that stuff, but why take this shot at Russell Wilson? I really don't understand it. I really don't get it. And then for Russell Wilson, this is just extremely surprising. I do not recall Russell Wilson ever saying anything back to anyone after all of the times he's been, really mistreated by the media. and thrown under the bus by people like Richard Sherman, for example. And actually, I'm kind of proud of Russell Wilson here. Now, I don't exactly know what goes on behind closed doors between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. I don't know what goes on between Richard Sherman and Russell Wilson, or Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, but Pete Carroll's never said anything about Russell Wilson in a negative way. But I'm actually proud of Russell Wilson to finally stand up for himself. Like, how long has this guy been absolutely just treated like absolute garbage by like every individual in the NFL? So, like, good on Russell Wilson just to say something back. Honestly, like, he has nothing to lose. He's washed. Like, he's not going to start in the NFL again. Who cares anyways? Like, say something, bro. So, I appreciate that from Russell Wilson. I really don't understand this from a guy like Sean Payton. This is a Hall of Fame coach. You have nothing to prove by saying this. It doesn't do you any good. I really don't get it. Now, I know you're trying to, like, give Jackson Dart some credit and stuff and make your team look better because you got ripped up by Jackson Dart. Cool. You got some problems there in Denver, which I want to talk about, but I just don't get it. I don't know if you guys get it either. Like, I don't know where you stand on that topic, but I want to talk about the Denver Broncos. So they beat the Giants 33-32. They're 5-2. They have the same record as Seattle. If you were to ask me who's the better team, Seattle or Denver, I don't think it's particularly close. I think Seattle is a lot better than Denver. And the reason I would say that is, first of all, I think Sam Darnold is a heck of a lot better than Bo Nix. Second of all, I think that the Seattle offense is just better than Denver's offense. Seattle has a very good defense. Denver has a very good defense. But Denver's very good defense continues to have issues holding teams consistently. I mean, 32 points allowed to the Giants is just not proper. Like, it's not proper NFL etiquette here if you're a good team. Like, you shouldn't be allowing that many points to the New York Giants. And I really don't know why it is. Like, too many penalties, over aggression at certain points. Dre Greenlaw comes back, gets suspended. Like, 12 penalties for the Broncos. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think Denver is one of the biggest frauds in football right now. If I were to pick out frauds, Denver. Their offense does nothing well. They don't run the ball well. Even against a bad run defense, like Dobbins had success, 5.8 yards per carry, 81 yards. But this wasn't happening at the start of the game. The Giants were able to lead, 19-0. Denver wasn't getting the run game going there. Bo Nix is not good. Like, Bo Nix, other than, like, what do they do on offense? They throw swing passes, screen passes, RPOs. Even the big play Bo Nix had at the end of the game, he threw it to the wrong guy, and it was somehow caught. He prays that Courtland Sutton is going to come up with a jump ball win every big play or every isolation situation. If you take Courtland Sutton away from this offense, by far the only thing Denver does well is throw the ball to Courtland Sutton. Other than that, Marvin Mims is a gimmick player. Troy Franklin is speed and really doesn't feel like much else. Like, Evan Ingram is washed. Their offensive line is good, and they give Bo Nix time, but even with time, this guy is indecisive, doesn't read a defense, panics when he has too much time, panics when he's under pressure. There's like this sweet spot for Bo Nix where if he has that quick first read, he's great. Other than that, he's basically the next version of, like, a stronger armed version of Tua, a faster Tua. Like, that's honestly what he is a more athletic Tua. Bo Nix. He's not a good quarterback. This offense is not good. The defense just continues to disappoint, in my opinion, where they just have too many of these outings where, yeah, they have dominant outings, but this team needs to be the best defense or second best or third best defense in football in order to go anywhere. And Sean Payton's being an asshole. He's not really coaching his offense up particularly well this season. Just like, yeah, I don't see it with this Broncos team. I think they're completely overrated. Last week, they barely beat the Jets. This week, they barely beat the Giants. Like, forget about it. I don't think this team's a threat at all. The Broncos are not a very good team. They win, though. Congratulations. Next, I want to talk about more drama. Mike McDaniel and Tua turned the ball over. So let's take a look at that. So Tua turned the ball over is a real thing. Mike McDaniel on his quarterback, Tua. My expectation is that we don't throw 10 picks. Mike, first of all, I love this from you because Tua sucks and you're trying to protect your job. And also Tua's been an absolute dickbag because he's the guy throwing everybody under the bus. He's the guy saying we have no leadership. He's the guy that's wearing the C on his chest who calls player-only meetings and can't be the one to lead it because he's not a leader, but he says they don't have any leadership. So Tua's talking out of his ass. But here's the thing with Mike McDaniel. I guarantee you Mike McDaniel's going to go somewhere and become a very legitimate OC that will get him another job somewhere else. And people will finally realize that Tua was never good, Brian Flores was always right, and Mitch on the Bottom Line View told you from the beginning. But, nonetheless, why don't you just bench the guy? Like, I understand that Tua is bad and he's probably your best hope, but what do you have to lose, Mike? Like, unless you don't make these decisions, unless somebody's telling you, like Mr. Greer or your owner is telling you that you have to play Tua, why continue to play the guy? Why? Play Zach Wilson. At least Zach Wilson is fun. The players are probably more likely to play for him. Quinn Ewers, maybe play him. He's a rookie. Maybe you got something with him. Like, try him out, see what he's got. You know what I'm saying? Like, try something different, bro. What do you have to lose at this point? You're going to get fired. Go for it. That was pretty funny, though. That was pretty funny. And next, yeah, I told you we were going to get to Aaron Glenn. I told you we were going to get to the New York Jets, okay? Apologize if that was loud in your earphones. Oh, I forgot to play this one.
Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl, 'cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1.
Miami Dolphins suck. Okay, let's get to the Jets. Jets. Okay. Woody Johnson, bro. What is this? Woody Johnson said he hugs Aaron Glenn all the time and tells him he believes in him.
What?
Woody Johnson said he hugs Aaron Glenn all the time and tells him he believes in him.
What? Shut your damn mouth.
What? What? Can you imagine that the owner just giving Aaron Glenn a hug? Oh, it's not your fault, Aaron. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. You have Justin Fields as your quarterback. I let you sign him. You signed him. You wanted him as your quarterback, but it's not your fault. It's not your fault, buddy. It's okay. Come here. You need a hug. Come here. Oh my God. Are you kidding me, bro? Are you kidding me?
What?
Oh my. And then we have this. Woody Johnson. It's hard when you have a quarterback with the rating that we've got. If you look at any head coach with a quarterback like that, you're going to see similar results. If we can just complete a pass, it would look good. First of all, Mr. Woody Johnson, you're the one that let go of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Glenn is the one that embarrassed himself by hanging Aaron Rodgers out to dry. Aaron Glenn and his staff and this regime is the regime that paid money to Justin frickin' Fields when I told you he fucking sucked. This is the definition.
Shut your mouth, jabroni.
This is the definition.
Jabroni. Jabroni.
However you spell jabroni, that is the definition of it right there. You sign Justin Fields. You continue to play him when he sucks. He took 9 sacks against the Denver Broncos. Bro, the New York Giants literally have 3 quarterbacks better than one of your quarterbacks. And the Giants are a terrible football team. What an embarrassing franchise. Woody Johnson, go hug Aaron Glenn some more, you freaking jabroni. Could have said something else there, but did not want to say a slur. All right. I think we got to talk about the Bengals a little bit. I think it's time to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals a little bit. So the Cincinnati Bengals back on Thursday night, if you guys didn't see, they electrified the NFL world with a victory over Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. By the way, Rodgers played great in that game. Mr. Woody, just going to throw that out there. He played great in that game, but the only reason they can't win a game, or they can win games, they've been winning games, the Steelers, but the reason they're not very good is because their defense is absolute ass cheek. Joe Flacco lit them up in his second game with the Bengals. Look at their schedule. I don't know if you guys can see that well, but they play Mr. Woody Johnson. Next up, the Cincinnati Bengals have the Jets next week in Cincinnati. Cincinnati is 6.5, 7-point favorites. They're expected to win that game, right? The Bengals right now, what are they? Like 3-4, I think. I think they're 3-4, if I'm not mistaken. Why is there last year's stuff here? Okay. So they lost to the Packers, lost to the Lions. That's some tough losses. They lost the Broncos. They lost the Vikings. That's 4 losses. They beat the Jags. They beat the Browns with Burrow. And then they beat the Steelers. So they're 3-4. They play the Jets at home and the Bears at home. Those are 2 games they can win. I would make an argument that Flacco is as good or better than both of those teams' quarterbacks. I'd also make an argument that both defenses on both these teams are not very good. I'd also make an argument that neither of these teams can cover Jamar Chase. So they have a chance. Then they play the Steelers, who they just beat in Pittsburgh. You would give Steelers the edge to even up the season series there, but it's not like it's a given after what we just watched. The Steelers' defense is completely inept. They'll probably lose to the Patriots because Drake May is literally the best player in the NFL. They play the Ravens twice, and I honestly think it's going to come down to these Ravens games, whether or not they have a chance to get to the playoffs. Because, guys, let's say they're 4-4 after they beat the Jets. Let's say they beat the Bears. They're 5-4. Let's say they lose to the Steelers. They're 5-5. Let's say they lose to the Patriots. They're 5-6. Okay? Joe Burrow is expected to be back for the last 3 games of the year. These 3 opponents, Dolphins, Cardinals, and Browns, they're going to beat all 3 of those teams. That's 8 wins. So now you have 3 other games to get 2 wins, maybe only 1. If you can get 9-8, maybe you have a chance to get in. In this AFC, it's possible. Can they beat the Ravens once? They're probably going to lose to Buffalo in Buffalo unless Joe Burrow is there. They might have a chance, but let's say that's a loss, okay? If they can beat the Ravens one time, they have a chance. And who knows? Joe Flacco, revenge game in Baltimore. Could it happen? Maybe. It's possible. So the Bengals, legitimate threat. These next 2 games, though, Jets and Bears, huge. They have to beat the Jets 100%. They can't lose that game. And that Bears game is going to be significant. So the Bengals are going to be a fun watch for the rest of the year. Thursday night was very fun. But again, guys, it's exactly what I've been saying about the Steelers. Like, their defense is ass. Their offense actually has played a lot better, but it looked so good because it was playing the Bengals defense. Like, let's honestly be fair about that. Like, the Bengals defense is absolute garbage, okay? Absolute garbage. Before we finish with Drake Maye, as we do every week, I've got to say this. The Philadelphia Eagles are 5-2. They might be the worst 5-2 team of all time, just by the fact that they are 5-2 and have not outgained a single NFL team that they have played. I don't remember a team winning 5 out of 7 games. If anyone can find me statistical proof of a team winning 5 out of 7 games to start the season without leading a single game in yards, someone prove me wrong. The Eagles have not outgained a single opponent this year. Against the Vikings, they had 8 less first downs. They were 30% on third down, and they beat the Vikings. Mostly because the Vikings were 1 for 6 in the red zone. 1 for 6. We talked about this on Sunday. I don't know what to do with the Eagles because they're 5-2. Early in the year, they had some good wins, but in recent performances, they look like absolute garbage. They probably should have lost this game to a mediocre Minnesota, but they win somehow, and they still haven't outgained anybody. Like, what the heck? I don't even know, man. Let's talk about the MVP. So, whether you believe it or not, and this will prove whether you're a jabroni or a brilliant human being, Drake Maye is the MVP of the NFL. He really is.
It's gonna be May.
Drake Maye is the MVP by the definition, and he's the MVP by the stats. Think about it for a second. The New England Patriots, who had an over-under win total of 8.5, have 5 wins through 7 weeks. Drake Maye is second in completion percentage, second in yards per attempt, second in passer rating, second in completion percentage over expected, third in EPA per play, and I think he might be first in collective EPA, sixth in success rate. Drake Maye is at the very top of the quarterback efficiency chart. He is the most efficient quarterback in the NFL right now. Drake Maye is the most effective quarterback in expected passing situations. Above Lamar Jackson, Jordan Love, Patrick Mahomes, Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott, doesn't matter. He is also, I think I scrolled the wrong way. These are my likes on Twitter, just so you guys know. Year 2 quarterbacks are not supposed to do what Drake Maye is doing. He is also the best deep ball passer by a wide margin in the NFL. And since 1999. Better than Brock Purdy in 2023, Colin Kaepernick, 2 Niners quarterbacks, even Tua Tagovailoa. The best by far. He is historic this season. Historic. He has the highest passer rating in NFL history in a team's first 4 road games. It's only below Dan Marino and Tom Brady in 2 of the greatest quarterback seasons, arguably the 2 greatest quarterback seasons in NFL history. 1984 Dan Marino and 2007 Tom Brady. He has the 3rd best passer rating on the road through the first 4 games of a season. The only reason people don't think Drake Maye is the MVP is because he's a New England Patriot. Honestly, people do not want to admit that the Patriots have another phenomenal quarterback. That's really the end of the story. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's 23 years old. Sure, he was the 3rd overall pick in his draft class behind 2 other quarterbacks, but he's clearly better than both of them. It's not even close. I don't know what he has to do. Is it a sample size thing? Like what? Why is Drake Maye not first in MVP odds? The guy that is first in MVP odds is Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes is not better than Drake Maye in almost any statistic. 0. And when you compare the supporting cast of the elite playmakers at quarterback right now, Dak Prescott has CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Patrick Mahomes now has Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy, Andy Reid, an all-pro center, an all-pro guard, right? Baker even has had Emeka Egbuka, right? Bucky Irving, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin throughout the season, on and off. Tristan Wirfs, the best left tackle in football. Matthew Stafford has Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Sean McVay. You look at the guys that are producing the best. Drake Maye is in that category, right? He has the worst offensive line out of all of them. He has the worst run game in the league. His defense right now is mediocre, statistically. Even worse than mediocre statistically, actually. Although they're a lot better than that in my opinion, but stats are stats. He is leading all the NFL in all these stats. He's extremely efficient, extremely consistent. His success rate is extremely high, and he's throwing the ball better down the field than anyone in the league. What else could you ask for? It's literally like shouldn't be happening. He's the most explosive and efficient quarterback in the NFL. That doesn't even really make sense. And he has a mediocre receiving core and a mediocre offensive line. And he doesn't have he has a good offensive coordinator, but I would not say he's Kyle Shanahan, or I don't think he's in the same breath as Andy Reid. So what are we even talking about? Why is Drake Maye not the favorite to win the MVP? Patrick Mahomes leads the NFL in odds. Patrick Mahomes has a worse PFF grade. And if we were to compare stats right now, I'm just looking at their stats, right? Mahomes, okay, so completion percentage is Drake Maye by 9%. Yards, Mahomes has him by 60. Yards per attempt, Maye has him by 1.3 yards per attempt. Maye has 2 less touchdowns. They have the same amount of interceptions. And Maye also leads the NFL in passer rating and completion percentage, according to Pro Football Reference. So, I just don't get it. And then on top of that, you look at the rushing stats that he has. So, guys, I don't get it. He's young, sure. But why is Drake Maye not the MVP? We gave the MVP to Lamar Jackson in his second year. We gave the MVP to Mahomes in his second year. Why can't Drake Maye win the MVP? It's because he's a Patriot. That's all it is. That's all it is. Thank you guys for watching. Gronk spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Check out my power rankings this week. And let me know in the comments what you think of this video. Peace.